So I'd like to introduce Rob Williams.
Thanks, Sean. Comrades, really happy to speak at this event. Really grateful for the support of our party, the Socialist Party, in helping the work of the National Shop Stewards Network. And we are very proud in the NSSN that we were initiated by one of the most militant unions, the RMT, and supported by 5 other national unions. One of those unions, the POA, as has been mentioned, moved a motion at the TUC Congress calling for them to consider the practicalities of a general strike. Another, the PCS, spoke in that discussion, and of course the RMT seconded the motion. On the Sunday before Congress started, the NSSN, as you know, brought over 800 trade union activists to lobby the TUC to support the POA motion to call a 24-hour general strike to defeat the condemned cuts. The NSSN is in the middle of holding 10 events, 10 meetings and conferences in the aftermath of the October the 20th demonstrations in Glasgow, Belfast and London. They're around the theme of putting the pressure on for a 24-hour general strike and defending the NHS. But we need more than 10 meetings around the country. We need 100 meetings. We need 1,000 meetings in every workplace and town and city around the country to discuss the idea of building the pressure for the TUC to name the date for a 24-hour general strike. And people are discussing the trigger for such an action, but we have live disputes at the moment on pensions in many parts of the country. We have local government unions on the verge of submitting a pay claim for 1.6 million workers. We have redundancies, privatisation, outsourcing throughout the public sector. So we already have the platform for a public sector general strike in this country. We can add on to that, put a call out for workers in the private sector currently in dispute or preparing to ballot. The comrades in the RMT facing down the threat of a McNulty, or the Ford workers, 1,400 of them facing the dole queues because of the closures in Dagenham and Southampton. The workers that have taken action this year in Unilever, in Remploy, MMP, in Bootle, and many, many other places, including, crucially, victories for the Sparks in the construction industry and the London bus workers, which incidentally shows that if the call went out for a 24-hour general strike, even if ballots are not taken in every single one of those workplaces, we already have the precedent of unofficial strikes that have taken place this year. All those actions inspired, in my belief, by the massive movement of public sector workers that started on June the 30th last year, that finished on May the 10th this year when 400,000 workers took action, of course, the 30,000 prison officers who walked out unofficially and illegally. But of course we know that strike was taken to recover the momentum that was lost in late December last year when some union leaders, particularly in Unison and the GMB, signed the heads of agreement on pensions and broke the strike coalition, the monumental strike coalition of November the 30th, possibly the biggest single day of strike action since the 1926 general strike. That wasn't just a strike, that was a mobilisation of tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of workers in every town and city up and down the country. And comrades, some of those leaders may have broken the strike coalition that day, but that day, that incredible day, has changed everything as far as we are concerned. There is no coincidence that the number of disputes has increased this year. The sights and sounds of workers on the march and on strike has legitimised the idea of workers fighting back and in some cases winning significant victories. We put out 40,000 flyers on March the 26th last year on our demonstration to say this is the fight of our lives. And when we have charities opening 3 food banks a week, when 50% of the people who withdraw on those food banks are in work but because they can't get their feed their families on the salary that they have. Because since 2009, real wages have been reduced by £2,000. When a food bank coordinator in Liverpool told the Times this year that most of us are only 1 or 2 pay packets away from not having any money. This year, they predict they will feed over 100,000 people. This is the effect of losing 400,000 permanent public sector jobs, replaced by temporary jobs, 0-hour contracts and part-time work, and that is if you're lucky enough to find a job. And if you have kept your job, you're in the middle of an effective 4-year pay freeze, or one of the hundreds of thousands that have had thousands of pounds stolen from their wages. And that is why, allied to rising rents, and nearly 1 million workers now rely on housing benefits to keep a roof over their heads, double the number of 4 years ago. We can add the trebling of tuition fees, the abolishing of EMI, privatisation of the NHS, the attack on benefits which will leave 500,000 disabled people and their families worse off. We could go on and on and on. And all of these are reasons to fear, like many of our oldest and poorest will when they try and survive throughout this winter, when energy companies are going to increase prices by an estimated 10%. But they are also reasons to fight. They're actually why our members have to fight, particularly as there are over 80% of the cuts to come. Fighting to have a decent life, to keep a roof over your head, to stay out of the food banks, to stay away from the payday loan companies, and now with the attacks on the trade union facility time, the right to be in an effective trade union itself. This is the message that we have to send to the union leaders, all those affected by the cuts, from the poorest, the homeless, the sick, the disabled, the young and the old, to even the small business people, as we've heard, who are suffering the consequences of these attacks. All of them are looking for a lead and can look to the trade union movement to provide that lead. And therefore we say to the affiliated unions who say, let's put the general strike on a back burner and therefore wait for two and a half years for the next Labour government. Miliband made it clear on October the 20th. The left to themselves, Labour in office will cut, he said, slower and shallower. But I ask everyone here, do we genuinely think that Ed Miliband is going to stand up to the bankers and the bond markets and refuse to cut at the pace that they want to? Look around the country where Labour councillors are wringing their hands and cutting jobs and services. Birmingham Labour Council admitting that they're going to make £600 million worth of cuts over the next few years. We say, stand and fight like the councillors in Southampton and Hull. We and your workforce and residents will support you, but fight you if you continue to cut our members' jobs. Why should we suffer for a crisis caused by the bankers? Jobs, wages and benefits cut when the riches get their taxes cut or avoid and evade them. Companies like Facebook and Starbucks, which either pay little tax or none at all. We have a situation today in the press. ISS Limited, a payroll company that pay the wages of 240,000 temporary teachers in this country and didn't pay national insurance. We have a situation where HMRC make a deal with 6,000 of the super rich with accounts in Swiss banks. They do a deal not to jail them, but not even to name them, and you get people on benefits who put in jail if they try and defraud the benefit system. Comrades, this is why a general strike in Britain would be popular and would get the support of others. And we say to those who think that the private sector will run to the rescue of the economy, look at the workers in Ford, in Dagenham and Southampton who face the dole. And look at the ridiculous situation you have there, where you have, because of the austerity, workers can't afford to buy cars. You have a situation where those plants are going to be closed. This is the logic of capitalism. Improve the technology, not to improve the lives of workers, but to get rid of them. That so-called surplus capacity could be the working week reduced to 35 or even 30 hours. Well, under this system, the workers who remain will more and more see them forced to actually work longer for less. But if the big car companies were nationalised, under workers' control and management in Britain or on a European-wide socialist plan of production based on the nationalisation of the banking system that the FPU support and have put forward, then you could have a real programme of alternative production, making socially useful environmentally products such as electric cars or products for people with disabilities. That's why, alongside the battle to defend the 4 jobs or fight for the austerity attacks, we have to put forward the practicalities of our socialist society is indispensable in guaranteeing a decent future for workers and their families. Otherwise, workers can be overwhelmed by the crisis of the system if we can't explain that socialism is a viable alternative. So, comrades, we have to make it clear that we are sketching out the most likely way in which a general strike can happen in Britain. But a word of warning, we are in a volatile period and we have to be prepared for all kinds of developments that can take place as the working class search for the action that they need to take down this government. The conditions are there at the moment for a mass movement to defend the NHS alone at this time. Comrades, alongside our supporting unions, the NSSN should be very proud that on October the 20th demonstration, it was dominated by the idea of a general strike to fight austerity. Together with those unions, we've acted as a lever on the biggest unions to first help win the PUA motion of the TUC, then to popularise the idea, to be the idea on the October the 20th demonstration. I'll just finish with this point. On October the 20th, it was actually an anniversary for me. It was the 26th anniversary of me joining this party. And I've got no doubt that one of the reasons I joined this party was a year and a half earlier, the defeat of the miners' strike had a big impact on me in the South Wales valleys. And I remember the sight of the miners in the historic mine of Mardy walking back to work, unfortunately, in defeat. And I'm sure for many of us it felt that the lights had gone out for our movement at that time. Well, you know, when I've been watching over the last year and a half, the 500,000 that marched on March the 26th, for the 2 million that went out on strike on November the 30th, for the 1,600 workers that walked out to Ratcliffe Power Station to get a shop steward reinstated, when I stood outside Brixton Prison and the POA members walked out illegally on May the 10th, and for the heroic Remploy workers fighting to keep those plants open when they were faced with closure this year. Comrades, I feel our class is on the road back given all the difficulties that face us. It was no surprise to see Bob Crow and Mark Sawalker calling for a general strike on the October 20th demo. But we welcome Len McCluskey from Unite putting it to the vote and winning it on that rally. But that rally is too exclusive for the millions and millions outside who want the action that is necessary at that time. Let's organise the meetings. Let's push for the response to make sure that all the voices of the trade union movement of class are heard. The words have been spoken. The genie's out of the bottle. Let's build for a 24-hour general strike to stop Cameron's cuts and throw this government out.